I was a lonely kid. I had nobody to play with because my elder brother is 14 years senior. So, I used to stay alone at home and I'd play with my dolls. Or I was also a very weird kid. I used to do weird things like I'd catch flies and then, rip their wings off and then make them race. And then finally I would have, of course, burn them. So it was like, so, I was a very weird kid. And I also never had a lot of friends because I used to not go out that often. Also because my parents were too wary of the fact that I would go out and play, because you see my mother could not take very good care of me because she used to stay ill most of the time. So I used to spend my days, my afternoons alone. She was alone. She was sad. Trailing her mother like a shadow, she spent her days secretly feeding her canine friend, picking wings off little flies, making them race before their sacrifice at Barbie's altar. Overcome with boredom, she spent lazy afternoons. Well, little did she know, little did she know what fate had in store. Like a mirage she appeared. She smelt of that unfamiliar thing, that thing people call hope. I will play with you. I will be by your side. Little did she know what fate had in store. Big sisters are always right. They show the way. We'll play every day. During the afternoon, will we catch flies and race them? Let's go inside. I know of a new game. Little did she know, little did our luckless little Missy know what fate had in store.
We were put in a crash because mom and dad were working, and we tried options of keeping a maid with us 24/7, and then in the middle some relatives had come in to pitch in, and none of that worked. So ultimately we landed up in a crash, and fortunately or unfortunately for mom, she came in contact with a teacher who was teaching my brother's school, who also happened to be running a crash, and she lived like 2-3 societies down the lane. So she offered to take us in, and that's how we landed up there. Yeah.
Or is it
I
only
don't know. I don't know if it terrified me or not, because obviously, whatever I remember of incidences that I experienced, they came to me in flashes, and now when I started recollecting and started realizing what all had happened once I was in college, and at that time when I started just realizing and coming to terms with what had happened, that time it used to be very scary. It would give me a very scary feeling, but I doubt if as a child I felt that something was wrong. Yeah, so.
so the basically my situation was such when I was growing up was that my mom and dad would be out of town most of the time. Like my dad would be like posted all over India and all, and they would like leave me, my other two sisters with my grandparents, my mom's side. I remember like Duma and I, we'd always rush up to this terrace, like holiday times or whatever times. I mean, like free time we'd get, and it was a huge terrace, and we'd always like run around and like play with whatever, with our little toys and all that stuff. Or we just fly kites. So we'd like also kind of make paper planes, and we'd like just send it off to the road. And we would actually also sometimes light up the tail end of the paper planes. Basically, we were a very wicked bunch of kids and all that. So we'd just be minding our own business and playing around. And then this uncle in question, he'd like come from behind, he'd sneak up very slowly, and without us obviously aware of it, he'd just zip our pants down. And we just like stand over there, staring at each other, staring at the uncle, and we just have hot tears swelling up in our eyes, and we were so angry and hurt, and we like feel so like we couldn't do anything. We were like so like, what can we say? We were like 4-5 year old kids, and he's around like college kid and all that, so we couldn't do anything. We just stand there frozen, and he'd just be there laughing away, very like he's had a great time or whatever.
Okay, how I'm coping with it, yeah. I think the most scariest part of having an abusive experience is it haunts you, and it haunts you in your adulthood. Oh shit. Oh shit. That just goes to show I haven't coped with it. I think the most scary part of having an abusive experience is it haunts you, and it haunts you in your adult life. It haunts you a lot in your adult life, and you feel helpless. You feel very helpless thinking about a situation or a time when you were just a kid and you couldn't do anything about it. So that is very disturbing. I've had a phase, in fact long phases of not being able to sleep properly, but I'm coping with it. It has had a long impact on. It has made me insecure to a great extent. I have trust issues talking, building relationships. I have trust issues. It takes me a long time to get comfortable with people and just pour myself out and strike a friendship. So I wouldn't say I have really coped with things, but I guess I'm on the road to it. Apart from obviously the counseling bit, I do retrospect on what has happened. I try to tell myself that I was just a kid. I didn't know what big people were about, what adults were about. So I shouldn't be blaming myself, and I think the ones who need to be blamed are those people who've wronged me. So I'm slowly coming to terms with it, but it's definitely a very disturbing experience. It moves me till date.
When I think of how am I coping, or how did I cope with sexual abuse that had happened with me as a kid, I have this very conflicting answer to give, because what had happened with me was not all forced. It started with a little bit of coercion, and also a little bit of like I was forced into it. But as time passed, I sort of grew accustomed to what was happening, and I also became party to all that was happening with me. So once it all stopped, it had become very difficult for me. I don't know if I had to blame somebody, or I had to blame myself, or I had to blame my parents for what had happened. So what I did as I was growing up was that I blocked most of the memory of my childhood, and I looked at that particular period in my time as the time when I was very close to somebody I loved a lot, and we shared these moments, and I would refrain from defining those moments. Came across this one friend of mine, and he was pretty vocal about what had happened to him as a kid, and he could also look at everything in both a positive and a negative light. He did not shy away from coming to terms with the fact that okay, that he was that a certain person took advantage of him. So once I started talking to him, I took this really bold step. I went ahead and I wrote in one of the national weeklies. I'm so sorry. And then my father came to know. A lot of people from my family came to know. We talked about it, and once my friends came to know, and once it was all out in the open, I guess I not exactly came to terms with it, but I could face it.
I think started talking about my the sexual abuse that I went through as a kid was, I think, during my college days. Like, I think I was in my first years, and once I came to my college, I met other people who had like gone through the same experiences, and I felt like, I'm not the only one. And because of that, I kind of opened up little by little, more and more. And initially, I mean, like, I used to have a lot of trouble because I could just say like bits and pieces about it. But then, like, I'd tell one person about just one portion, then I couldn't get ahead because then a big ball would form in my throat and I get all, moist-eyed and all, and I'd start crying, and then I just stop talking about it. Next time I try to talk, the same thing would happen. So eventually, like, because I kept on meeting these type of people, and I became more exposed and more aware of such situations about child sexual abuse, you know about pedophile and all. I kind of started talking more about it, and eventually I think for me, talking out kind of somehow, somewhere along this, like, finding people who've gone through the same thing, I found my kind of peace or whatever. Not peace exactly, but then because I've constantly, because I've been constantly talking, it's like I've taken it out of my system slowly, bit by bit.
And then it so happened that my cousin's sister, she's 5 years elder to me, she one day very nicely and very kindly, she agreed to the fact that she'd come to my house every afternoon and we'd play. So we decided we'd play, and I was so happy because, this is the first time I had somebody to play with, and I was ready to do anything and everything for her. The games began. Our game was more than game for the game. Now she didn't know. How would the poor soul know? Because big sisters are always right. They know best. They are the ones who know. They show the way. It's harmless, she announced. You will enjoy, she proposed. Well, I will be the husband because I am taller. You will be my wife. Just like Bapi and Ma? Yes. The tongue has to go inside the mouth. I don't like that feeling. Well, this is how husbands and wives behave. The wife listens, or else, little missy, she is thrown out. Why do I have to open my clothes? because I will show you how to love. I saw it on TV. Don't you love me? Don't you want to play? I will go then. You left me grappling, raving and ranting, not knowing why it ended. I missed those afternoons, those days spent in bliss, building a relationship that was meant to last forever.
I just remember that there was this husband, this uncle, and he was about, I guess, 70, 60 years old, always eating pan and red teeth and horrifying looking, horrible looking. I mean, I remember glimpses of the fact that it was somewhere in winter when this happened, and I remember that because I remember being pulled out of my green blanket, which I still have. Somehow I've managed to not make that green blanket a symbol of terror or some negative feeling. But yeah, I do remember that I was getting pulled out of the green blanket, and then I was dragged into this other room where the husband would just hang around throughout the day and watch his TV and read his paper and things like that and just be there. So I'm getting dragged into that place. There's a couch or a bed, I don't know what exactly, but a raised platform where I'm being dragged on. I'm made to lie down there, and then this man is making me feel his private parts, and there's this TV in front of me which is playing out loud, and some kind of a match is going on. That's what I remember. I had some really sick feeling. I felt really dirty. I washed myself 2-3 times. I bathed so many times, and repeatedly this happened for at least 2-3 times. When I would have these nightmares, and I just feel really filthy about myself. I would just beat myself up and say to myself that, oh gosh, why did I let it happen to me? Why wasn't there anybody to hear me out or do something to protect me from this man? So yeah, I guess just remembering it all over again was traumatic. I mean, traumatic is too exaggerated a term, but very horrifying.
as a little kid, I'd be like running around in my grandparents' house, upstairs, downstairs, and all that. But then there was this one room, the uncle's room, where I'd like be very interested to go. I was in like I was like around 4 or 5 years old and all. And then the uncle, he was in like college. I'd go to this room of his, like every time I was drawn to it because like he'd always have these interesting knickknacks, pen stands with some human stickers with small compartments, or these magazines, comics. And there's this one thing that I really remember. It's this huge cupboard, and on this cupboard, if I open the door on the left side, on the inside, it was filled with like moths and butterflies, dead moths and butterflies. They were either pinned or taped. So then I'd always stand in front of this door, fascinated. I just look at all of those moths and butterflies. And uncle, like I said, he wouldn't, he wouldn't mind as long as I, didn't bother him. But at times, uncle would get up. He'd, go to the door and lock it, come back to where I was. He'd drop his pants, and I think he'd then he'd take my hand and make me feel him up on his private areas, and he'd even drop my pants sometimes and feel me up and all. And I don't know, it was I was, after all, I was just 5-6 years old and all. I don't remember exactly how I felt that time. There was this one time where I tried to tell my parents about it, but then what happened was the guy in question had left my grandparents' place, and so my grandmother and mom, they were near the kitchen and they were talking about how ungrateful he was. So me and my sister Doma, when we saw that he was spoken of unfavorably, we just took the chance, or rather I took the chance, and Doma and I, we told them about how he used to come from behind while we were up in the terrace and suddenly surprise us by just pulling our pants down. As soon as we mentioned that, my grandmother and mom, they reacted so wildly. I mean, they were like, why didn't you tell us before? Why didn't you let us know and all that? They got so angry, they got so, I don't know, they got so scared, whatever. Then after that, I just stopped. I just shut over there because I just couldn't bring myself to telling them the other part. I think to which, even for that age of, a child of that age, it was pretty horrendous, whatever. So I could know that if I told that, then they would really blast off. So then I just shut completely.
So my sister quite literally used me like a plaything, right? And she left me. She deserted me when she decided that I would not be of any more use to her. She had found somebody else to play with. So I was left all alone, and again I was like the lonely kid who had nobody to play with. But this time I was also very confused. I wanted to ask my parents as to what had happened. I wanted answers as to why had this happened with me, and why did it all stop, why all of this began, and was it right or was it wrong, or should I did I do the right thing by doing it, did I do the wrong thing by accepting what she had asked me to do. But I did not go ahead and ask anybody. I did not talk to my parents. Because then again, I was so little. I kept thinking, oh, it's just a game. I kept telling myself, it was just a game. It began, and every good thing comes to an end. So it has also ended, and you'll find new friends. And I moved on in life, and I sort of repressed what I had gone through, or all that I had experienced. Yeah, I repressed, and it came out after a long time when people got to know. When I told people.
I somehow managed to, smutter up the courage and tell her that, you remember this person or this crash that you had put us in all those years ago, and she just nodded, and casually, just acknowledging that, yeah, she recollects it. And then I told her exactly what had happened. I gave her details of, how I was dragged, and, I was taken by this so-called husband of this lady running the crash and pushed into this other room, and, made to do things that weren't right. And how it's been haunting me all this while. So I I I explained those details to her, and I somehow uh, was wanting for her to acknowledge it and also to console me, But I got neither of those, which was a hurtful experience, and I don't know. I think it kind of added to my uh, so-called trauma, And being the uh, progressive thinking parents that they are, I thought that they would at least acknowledge it, if not do anything about it. That would have also made a lot of difference, but they didn't, especially my mom.
Daddy's little girl paints the world with a magic wand. Daddy's little child breathes new life to the morning time for me. Though we're apart, her thoughts follow me. When I come home, Molly smiles with the dawn. Molly smiles and she radiates a glow around her halo. When she plays, Molly smiles on a summer day. Molly smiles, a new day, Molly smiles. Daddy's little girl ties a ribbon around my heart. Daddy's little child waves goodbye to the ocean tide that sweeps me. Though we're apart, she's a part of me. Molly smiles with the dawn. Molly smiles and she radiates a glow around her halo. When she plays, Molly smiles on a summer day. Molly smiles, a new day, Molly smiles. When I come home, Molly smiles with the dawn. Molly smiles and she radiates a glow around her halo. When she plays, Molly smiles on a summer day. Molly smiles, new day, Molly smiles. When the days have gone grey, nothing's wrong with Molly